The Honorable J.S. Malema.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and the President of the Republic of South Africa, and honorable members of this Parliament. Thank you for affording us an opportunity to respond to the State of the Nation delivered by our President. We want to acknowledge and greet millions of South African workers, the poor, downtrodden and dejected masses of our people, particularly 1 million plus South Africans who voted for EFF to come to this Parliament and represent the agenda of economic freedom in our lifetime, without any fear of contradiction. Our people mandated this movement, the EFF, to come and speak on behalf of the homeless, the landless, domestic workers, security guards, farm workers, cleaners, waiters and waitresses, recipients of social grants, construction workers, the unemployed and poverty-stricken masses of our people who are forgotten by the ruling elite, which is in bed with the oppressors and the imperialist forces. I thought it was going to be difficult for me to carry this mandate with a serious commitment against the party which taught me everything I know today about politics. But this was made easy by seeing Mr. Martinus van Schalkwyk on the benches of the ruling party. I then quickly remembered that, by the way, we are not opposing the ANC we joined then, the ANC of Lawrence Pukanuke, but we are opposing the ANC of Martinus van Schalkwyk and Cyril Ramaphosa. Mr. President, when you spoke yesterday, you reaffirmed this belief that indeed we have chosen the correct path because you no longer represent the hope of the hopeless masses of our people. Your speech yesterday was uninspiring and lacked the central theme, Mr. President. No one will remember what you said last night except that we should clean on Mandela Day, which was the only emphasis you made, and maybe because you thought it was the simplest subject you had to deal with in the whole speech last night. What was supposed to be the simplest subject for you has proven to be more complex than you thought, Mr. President, because your cleaning instruction goes against the wishes of President Mandela, who said it must be left to individuals' choice on how they wish to remember him or celebrate his life. I'm sorry, Mr. President, I won't be cleaning on Mandela Day. I will be involved in a more productive activities which will leave long-lasting legacy and remembrance of our world icon. And those activities will, amongst others, include the rebuilding of mud schools in the Eastern Capes and
a point of order, please.
On a point of order, Tate Malema, please.
Honorable Chairperson, the Speaker called the Deputy President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, and I think he's honorable as the member of this House. Can you rule on that? Thank you.
Honorable Malema, the Honorable Deputy President of this House is an honorable member of this House.
No problem, Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa. Mr. President, you tried to speak about radical socio-economic changes in your speech last night, but nothing you said was radical. Instead, we had a repetition of what has been said before. I know very well that your attempt to make radical economic changes your central theme in your speech last night was a direct response to the existence of EFF, or even an attempt to delegitimize it, but you successfully failed in the same way you failed when you introduced the red beret to counter that of the EFF during elections campaign. You and your party should stop playing with semantics, especially when it relates to a radical economic agenda, because you lack courage and you have sold out the revolution. You don't have what it takes to lead the struggle for economic emancipation of black majority, particularly Africans. You are extremely scared of white people, particularly white monopoly capital. You have in the past 20 years defended the privileges of white minority and continue with the exploitation and exclusion of oppressed black majority. The reason for such is because the elite pact that was forced upon the people in 1994 does not allow for radical economic transformation and changes. The pact defends the colonial and apartheid ownership patterns of the means of production, including property. The ANC is part of an elite pact that seeks to protect white monopoly capital and white minority privileges. And this has led to the formation of the EFF because there was a political vacuum and nature does not allow a vacuum. The EFF is here to lead the struggle to dismantle the elite pact and introduce the sunrise clauses. The pact has made you to even accept wrong things as the laws that run this parliament for the past 20 years. For example, the 1975 Act that makes it compulsory for members of parliament to join a certain medical aid scheme. You have been part of this illegal law and unconstitutional law for the past 20 years. It only took the EFF less than 100 days to reject this law, and parliament lawyers have agreed with us that indeed this law was unconstitutional, a law you comply to. This elite pact is reflected by the fact that the most prominent statue in this parliament is a statue of Louis Botha. The one of Nelson Mandela is a very small and is hidden behind the statue of Louis Botha. Louis Botha is not our hero and cannot be a hero of a democratic South Africa. He's a colonial warmonger who fought for the exclusion of black and indigenous people from running their own country and affairs. It's people like this who made white South Africans think that they are superior, and we continue celebrating them. We are equally perpetuating white supremacy. The statue of Botha outside this parliament must go down because it represents nothing of what a democratic South Africa stands for. The statue represents backwardness and apartheid, and therefore it belongs to the dustbin of history and to be replaced with a bigger statue of Siaparankwe Roditlahla Nelson Mandela. We will never have a true friendship and peace if white minority still behaves like they are superior and we should remain inferior in our own country. All black people continue to learn the languages of white minorities as part of our attempt to reach out to them and create friendship, but with very little attempt from their side to at least learn one of our African languages, because they have a wrong mentality that we must suck up to them. These are some of the legacies people like Louis Botha have left us, and it must be crushed. We must not celebrate anything that perpetuates white supremacy. As part of nation building, maybe we need to take hard steps by not celebrating any white person who does not speak at least or know one of the African languages. If you have a white friend as a black person and he or she does not know your language or take initiative to learn your language or your culture, that person is no friend at all. We need to undermine the legacy of apartheid through celebration of our blackness and unashamedly advance political, social, and economic liberation of blacks in general and Africans in particular. We must do away with self-hatred and embrace who we are and what we stand for. The time for black majority to benefit from natural, mineral, and the beauty of their country is now and can never be postponed. This is where we start. Now, we should deal with politics of what you raised yesterday. You promised jobs before, and you have repeatedly failed to create jobs. In your first address to this House as president, you promised to create 500,000 jobs in 6 months, yet you failed and no one held you accountable. Our people are being called upon to celebrate 20 years of freedom, and we really do not know what they should celebrate because the past 20 years has been 20 years of suffering and the poorest of the poor.
Yes, sir.
Agbare Speaker, is die agbare lid bereid om 'n vraag te vra? Is 'n baie maklike vraag. Ek wil vir hom vra, why does he deliver his speech in a white man's language of English, not in his own mother tongue?
Honorable Malema, are you prepared to respond to the question?
I have no time for racist questions. Our people are called upon to celebrate 20 years of freedom. We really do not know what they should celebrate because the past 20 years has been 20 years of suffering of the poorest of the poor. It has been 20 years of joblessness and unemployment for majority of our people, in particular the youth. 35% of South Africans
Order,
capable
members.
of working are unable, and majority of those who are employed are paid very low salaries. Mr. President, whatever you have said about jobs has been as false and inconsistent as the performance of your party for the past 20 years. However, you look at it, in 1995, unemployment was 15%, and now at this moment, it is at 25% or 36% with an expanded definition. 70% of this demographic are youth. This is your legacy. You have more than doubled unemployment. More than half of the working people earn 3,300 or less. A third of all workers are now employed through labor brokers. And we must also remind you that 2014 is a year in which you said you would have halved unemployment in 2009. You also promised to distribute 30% of the land in this very year. You promised to halve poverty by 2014. You promised to provide security of tenure to 400,000 households who live in informal settlement. You keep making the same promises and misleading this House, and honorable members clap hands. They encourage this mediocrity, lack of leadership, and misleading of the nation and the poor. You are a man of tradition, Mr. President, a tradition of empty promises. Now knowing you will not be there in 2030, please say nothing about 2030 because you will not be there. The President said a minimum wage shall be investigated. There is no need to investigate. This House must show leadership and courage. The workers have already shown the way. For 5 months now, workers in the Platinum Belt have been on the strike, which demonstrated their genuine determination. They are looking for 12,500, which the ANC government massacred 34 of them 2 years ago for it. In honor of those who died, let this House legislate 12,500. This will be a sign of showing remorse and regret for the Marikana massacre. We also demand the establishment of Parliamentary Commission on conditions and the salaries of mine workers,
Chairperson.
including
Point
the
of
auditing
order,
of the
Mr.
financial
Malema.
books.
Chairperson, on a point of order here, the Speaker said the ANC government massacred people 2 years ago. Is it parliamentary? Is there any proof of that? Can you rule on that, Chairperson?
Mr. Malema,
I maintain that.
Mr. Malema,
The ANC government massacred the people in Marikana. Those police were representing the ANC government.
Mr. Malema,
I'm not going to
Morena.
draw.
Morena,
It's not going to happen that.
Honorable Malema, Honorable Malema,
I'm all yours, Chair.
Honorable Malema,
Honorable Chair.
please accept that this House and all our houses of Parliament have simple rules to follow in a debate. The last time we said hold your horses because we're taking a point of order.
Okay.
I was asked to rule, and even before I gave you the go-ahead, you were on. Please do not do it again. The honorable member of the ANC raised a point. You contest that point, you say that you are sustaining it. I wish to take this point on advice, honorable members, and will rule on it tomorrow. Because it is not an open and shut, a statement that you make and you conclude on. There are many implications on it, and I would like to be properly advised to come back to this House on a ruling tomorrow. You may continue, Ntate Malema.
We call him for parliamentary commission on the conditions and salaries of mine workers, including the auditing of the financial books of all the mines by the state, to ascertain ourselves on how much is the mining sector making in this country, because we do not trust the current financial disclosure by the mining sector. Mr. President, you have spoken about radical socio-economic changes. And if indeed you meant what you said, then you will agree with me that there is nothing radical about preserving the current exploitative economic structure. Otherwise, what has been suggested here is a mere old wine in a new bottle. We are back to gear by another name, which Blade in Zimande called 1996 class project and the more
Honorable
serious
Malema.
strategic threat to the national democratic
Order,
revolution.
members.
In
Order, members.
his
Honorable Malema, there is an honorable Blade in Zimande in this house.
Honorable Blade in Zimande, in his factional battles with President Thabo Mbeki,
Honorable Malema.
said
Honorable Malema, I will not have this house degenerating into this. Please debate the state of the nation, the factional battles and whatever, let them stay where they are.
Chair, I don't agree with that. No, I don't agree with that.
Honorable Malema.
You are not going to tell me, Chair, how I must debate.
Order, Chair.
Point of order,
You are
Chair.
not going to tell me how I must debate.
On point of order, Chair.
No, I can't be told what to say.
Honorable Malema. Order, members.
Point of order, Chair.
Members,
Order, Chair.
Point of order, Chair.
honorable members, I am quite fit to sit on this chair. Honorable Malema, we have taken you through the rules of these houses. You will desist from making disparaging remarks on the persons of the honorable members of this house.
Point of order, Chair.
Order, Chair.
Point of order, Chair.
Order.
The chairperson is out of order. Honorable Musima Iman referred to the factional battles in the ANC, for which the chairperson did not call him to point of order. So the chairperson must be consistent in the application of the rules of parliament.
Chairperson is very consistent. The Honorable Maimani referred to the factional battles in the party, did not apportion it to a particular member of this house. Honorable Malema, withdraw those remarks.
Honorable Chair.
On the factional tendencies or otherwise of the Honorable Blade Nzimande.
Okay, Honorable Chair, withdraw.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Mr. President, you clearly do not know what a radical economic transformation means. What is radical about EPWP? What is radical about buying stolen land? Maybe we must give you a few tips on what is radical economic transformation. You must be prepared, if you want to advance this agenda of radical transformation, to expropriate the stolen land without compensation. You must be prepared to nationalize the mines, the banks, and other strategic sectors of the economy. You must be prepared, Mr. President, to protect local industries and ensure that they continue to be productive. Mr. President, you must provide free quality education up until the tertiary level. Mr. President, you cannot celebrate the two glorified high schools which are wrongly called universities in the Northern Cape and Mpumalanga, because the two of them are going to take only 350 people. We need to engage, Mr. President, in a deliberate program to send 10,000 students to outside the country to the best of the best universities, because all the countries which have succeeded, they took their learners and their youth to learn outside their countries. Mr. President, you were on a paraffin speed building stadiums for the 2010 Soccer World Cup, but you are failing to build schools and you are failing to build basic things like toilets. Radical economic transformation means
Honorable
you must
Malema, I'm afraid your time is up. Thank you very much.
No, but those orders you were eating on my
Honorable
time.
Malema,
Chair. Mr. President, la o ka itima metsi o tla bona e nwele.